In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
Do you want the whole truth?
I don't think you're ready.
Governments don't control things. A government can't control the economy without controlling people.
It's Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Here comes the truth.
Fans rocking out. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Proudly on, say it with me, AFR Talk. Big show tonight. We are going to be speaking with the Director of Government and Financial Regulatory Studies at the Cato Institute, Mark Calabria. Are you going to talk about regulation? Wait. Are you going to sleep yet? We're going to talk about Chairman Ben Bernanke's statements today and responses today about QE forever. Thank you, Dan the Man Celia. And it will be, it seems, forever. He's really backing off the idea of tapering. Now, this all has to do with, well, rather than explain it to you, I thought Congressman Ben Fincher did a great job, 8th District, Tennessee, as he summed up talking with a constituent of his and his concern over what happens when the easing, if you will, QE forever, stops. Roll it.
With the regulatory policies that we have, with the choking effect that some say, the big government is really good for big business, the unintended consequences, because the big businesses can react to big government. The smaller businesses have a harder time doing that with the resources they have. And, you know, I thought about it a minute, and it's a great point. I just, again, I'm fearful that we're out of control, pumping the money in. The private sector is addicted to the pumping of the money, and when we ever shut that off, there's going to be a reaction. The reaction, how that the stock market is 15,000. If we drop back to 12,000, again, you're going to see a panic. What do we do then? The government, and so many people, Chairman, think now that the government's role is to step in and save the day, and this is taxpayer money. This is very, very dangerous.
Well, there's this sort of idea going around that the Fed can step away and not do anything. We have to do something. We have to have interest rates somewhere. I mean, the Fed does control our money supply, so we have to do something. And I think that we're better off trying to get the economy moving than not.
We have to do something, and we are getting our economy moving. So it's better to do something than nothing. 7.6% unemployment. We have the U6 unemployment number jump from 13.8 to 14.3, meaning part-time folks who want to work more and people who are in the labor force but are not employed, underemployed. Here's the deal. You have workers out of work for a very long time. The unemployment number is at 7.6 only because people have left the workforce. And Ben Bernanke is saying, well, we've got to do something. He talked about a recovery happening last week, but housing starts took a dive. And so what that means is the signs of economic recovery are not there. We've talked about that for years. Annual declining growth. How does that impact you? If it's not getting better and you're doing something to ease the pain, what happens when you stop easing the pain? There's going to be a hiccup, and that's exactly what Representative Fincher was speaking to. We will talk to Mark Calabria about that specifically and what the Fed should do and how it translates to us, because at the bottom of the hour, a question was asked about how they could assist the housing market and low-income buyers. How to do that. Isn't that what got us into this mess in the first place? Bottom of the hour. Now, you've probably heard all you want to hear about the George Zimmerman case, but I thought Charles Krauthammer did an outstanding job the other night talking about media malpractice and overall the disgraceful behavior of the mainstream media and many others during the case. Roll it.
What was interesting here is that we saw every minute of the trial. There was nothing secret. There was nothing hidden. So for all of those who want to make this into a racial incident, an example of racial prejudice, answer this. Where was the racial taint in those hours and hours of that trial? Where was the bias? And what parts of the trial were not fair because the victim was African American?
He goes on now to, one, he just highlighted the fact of the racist claim and the fairness claim. And now, well, roll it.
The way that these demagogues are comparing this incident to Emmett Till, who was lynched in the South half a century ago, I think is a travesty. And it's a desecration of the memory of Emmett Till, who was a victim of real brutal racism in a country that at the time had legalized racism. Here was a trial that everybody watched, and that was, without any doubt, a fair trial. I think the media's attempt to turn this into a racial incident is disgraceful because the paradigm is white on black, except that Zimmerman is Hispanic, so CNN and others had to invent a new category, the white Hispanic. Up until now, we had never heard of that. Why? Presumably because one of Zimmerman's parents is white. Well, that also applies to the President of the United States, which means, is he a white African-American? This is an absurdity, and it's also a disgrace.
And referencing taking advantage of a crisis will bring people's emotions. They will be elevated, and they will be interested, and they will be mobilized. And never let a crisis go to waste. I believe it was Rahm Emanuel, now mayor of Chicago, who said that while chief of staff for the president in his first term. Bottom line, what are they going to do with all this energy and all this focus? Top of next hour, I'll detail it and explain how this is how the left gets these policies in place, and always there's a strike at your liberty, not at your liberty as a white American or a black American, as an American with red blood, as a citizen. And we'll explain it, we'll walk it through. There's a strategery there. What about abortion? What about the coverage of Texas and the ban? Well, we have some media malpractice there too, pointed out to us by Newsbusters, but we'll get to all that a little later. Right now, we go to Bibi Netanyahu commenting on Face the Nation about the threat from Iran growing. Roll it.
I think it's very important to make clear to them that you won't allow them to have this weapon and to demonstrate that by actions. That is, you can also make clear that the nuclear option, which is on the military option, which is on the table, is truly on the table. The Iranians take note of that. Right now, my sense is, in the international community as a whole, that because so many things are happening in the Middle East, things are happening, as you say, in Syria, in Egypt, with the Palestinians, there are many important issues that we have to deal with. And I have a sense that there's no sense of urgency, and yet, on Iran, and yet Iran is the most important and the most urgent matter of all. You should just talk to many of the leaders in this region, and they'll tell you that. Because all the problems that we have, however important, will be dwarfed by this messianic, apocalyptic, extreme regime that would have atomic bombs. It would make a terrible, catastrophic change for the world and for the United States.
You remember earlier I talked about how Dr. Waleed Fairs would be explaining this and why it matters to you because of the missile technology on par in development with their nuclear technology. Well, Dr. Waleed Fairs is next. AFR Talk.